Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Undone, Season 2, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. The fact is, we didn't immediately pick up from where the last episode left off. I was like, wait, are we just going to ignore, the whole thing of Becca having powers? But it's like, no, she just kind of want to pretend like everything was fine, that didn't really happen, that her and Alma didn't really have that conversation because Alma has to go over to her house to continue said conversation because Alma's still trying to use her powers to kind of go back in time, but she ends up falling through the fog and coming across a door that she can't get open. So her and Becca start talking about this whole situation once again, about their mom's circumstances of trying to figure out what exactly it is, and trying to figure out that door situation because she ends up dragging Alma. Because I think Becca might have accidentally done it at first, the whole fog thing, but they ended up falling and Becca ended up bringing them back because she was like, right, if the door's closed and won't open, maybe it's not meant to be open. Because I was wondering, because they never tried as a united front. It makes you wonder in the long run, are we going to find out that it has to be opened by all four of them? Well, we know Jacob can do it a little bit. We know Alma and Becca have it, so maybe all three of them, but maybe Camilla has to be a part of it as well. They have to open it as a family because maybe there's some unified trauma or something that's keeping that door closed. Maybe it's like a subconscious... Not unless it's like a timey-wimey thing of right, if you open this door, it's going to be catastrophic against the timeline or something like that. I feel like it's more so like a subconscious block because it's some subconscious level of trying to stop you from using your powers to go to a certain point in time to keep that locked away. Because the moment you open that door, it's going to trigger a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know. But Becca wants nothing to do with all of this. She's for her, it's her life is great the way it is, and she doesn't want to kind of tamper with it any more than this. She's trying to help their mom enough as is, but their dad told her not to tell anyone about it because at the time she still hasn't told Jacob about the fact is that Becca has powers too. But, Jacob's once again saying, stop, don't, screw with things too much, don't tell anyone. It's you were able to help me, sure, because you could understand what I did. But I guess it's because Alma's not really thinking about the grand scheme of things, the ripple effects of telling someone that you change and altered reality, because now it's going to make people have existential crises of their own, just like she did last episode of you timeline A Alma versus timeline B Alma, and the whole consciousness thing of timeline A Alma's consciousness being in timeline B Alma's body. But now the question is, if Becca finds out the truth, it's wait, so if this is me, who was I before? My life, is it really my life? My life is now shifted completely from what it originally was because of stuff you did. You messing with the timeline changed things. It's better for you, but who says what's better for me? From where things were, you can make the argument things were better off. But once again, that's also because of the whole Alma thing, getting drunk, her cheating and stuff like that. I even love that comes up later on where it's oh, at least you didn't cheat on him. And Becca's of course I didn't cheat. I would never cheat on him. Alma makes a face. She's what was that face? What? No, it's nothing. I'm just saying. She's you didn't cheat on him in this lifetime. She's what? Oh, ignore me. I'm shit-faced. I love that. It's you're so coy about it. Tiptoeing around it. But because there was because Alma had walked in on her mom having a her and her dad were having... Jacob and Camilla were having an argument about her sending $5,000 to Mexico, and the fact is he's asking her questions about it, and she gets super defensive, oh, you think I'm lying? He's no, I'm just trying to find out what's... She's oh, you can't just trust me anymore. He's wait, what's going on here? The way she's shifting the argument, why is she getting so defensive? He's why can't you just trust me? Because she's saying she sent it to a cousin, and he's trying to figure out what the money's all about. But obviously he's not telling Alma much about it. He's oh, don't worry about the argument. It was nothing. And so I guess it is that thing of the arguments have been happening little by little, and I think they're starting to pile up over the course of these past years. And it's that thing of I think when you ignore an issue for so long and you just keep it buried down, it just starts bubbling to the surface to the point, for whatever it is, she's crying about it. And so I guess, I don't know, the strain that it's putting on her relationship, or I don't know what that's all about. But, both Alma and Becca are worried about her. So Alma goes upstairs to kind of look through stuff about their dad's research, because she's like, right, I want to find out if there's anyone else like me. I think she was hoping to go through the research so she could better understand things and potentially help Becca kind of have a better understanding of her powers. She's saying, like, right, I want to find someone else that's out there like us, because that way we're not as alone. Because her dad can't do what she's doing anymore, but so she's kind of doing it on her own. But with Becca, it's like, wow, here's another thing. Like, I think her and Alma and Becca have had, like, a complicated relationship, and I think it's like, right, oh, cool, this is something we get to share together as sisters. So maybe, that's what she's kind of hoping for. So it isn't a thing of like, oh, she has to kind of go through this alone, because the only person she could really talk to about it is her dad. But even that's not, especially because it's like, right, if she has a partner in crime who wants to do what she does, it's like, right, I want to go and help people. But the question is, are you really trying to help people, or are you just doing things that you believe, like, it's a little bit of selflessness mixed with being selfish and selfless is what I'm trying to say. Jeez. Which makes me think of that Newfound Glory song. Isn't it just called Selfish? Or no, it's called Selfless. See, I'm doing that because I'm thinking of the chorus, and that just kind of screwed me up a little bit. Tangents aside. God, what was I saying? I lost track of my thought process. Oh, I was saying that it's a combination of being selfless and selfish. That selfless thing, she wants to help people, especially when it's her own mom. But the selfish aspect to it is you're only doing it because yes, it's your mom, but also it's like it helps your life. So it's a combination of the two. You're trying to do right. You have this power. You can help make not just your life better, but everyone else's life better. But we also see like her life in this timeline B, isn't quite what she wanted it to be, or which that ends up being a conversation between her and Becca about how to handle things, because when she went up to the attic, she found that painting. I also love that she found the little blackjack thing, and she's like, oh, hello, old friend. I was like, oh, that's nice. But she doesn't need any more having better control of her powers. Well, she needed it to ground herself, but she doesn't need it anymore. Especially with her powers kind of jacked up as they are currently. So, but the picture was painted by Alejandro, and it's of their mom, Camilla, when she was young. And it's a very like poetic love thing of like, oh, a piece of me will always be with you type of thing. So it seems like it might be an affair situation, but they're not clear. And it kind of leads to this argument between Alma and Becca, where Becca is saying like, right, the only reason why you're doing this is because you don't like the direction your life is going. And you don't like what your life is and stuff. And then like Alma retorts that, oh, you're not really, what are you doing? Like, you're not really living your life. You're basically playing the role of the life that's laid out before you, the life that mom wants for you or your husband wants for you. You're just kind of playing the role rather than actually living your life. Alma's always been kind of a free-spirited person, and I think that has always collided with Becca, who's always been the person that's like, right, let's have a plan and kind of follow it step by step. Like, they've always come in contrast, and those opposites have always kind of clashed against each other over the years, I think, personality-wise. So Becca, we learn, is kind of going through some stuff with Reed because they kind of get into an argument because he finds out that she's still taking contraceptives because she does. So he's like, wait, you don't want to have a baby with me? She's like, I do, but, and he's like, right, you're lying to me. So he goes to spend time with his parents, and we find out later on when she talks to Alma, she's always presented herself once again as someone that's so in control, which once again is in contrast with Alma, who's kind of always been the wild one, who's been out of control. But obviously in this new timeline, I think that shifted. So I think that's where Alma's coming in conflict, where she's always been in timeline A, the free flowing, the free one, and going with the flow type of thing. And then in timeline B, she's very much more like Becca, which it almost seems like maybe the roles have been kind of a little reversed, maybe to some extent with this new in timeline B. But Becca is not really sure about things, and she doesn't want to tell Reed because she's like, right, I'm supposed to be the one that's got everything locked down and figured out, and I don't want him to see through me like that, so I keep pretending and lying to him, and it just makes things worse. So, and because it's something that I want to say last episode, her mom kind of brought it up at dinner, like, oh, when you're going to have grandkids, and Reed really wants kids and wants a baby, so she's kind of feeling that pressure from what her mom wants and also what Reed wants, and at the end of the day, I don't think she quite knows what it is exactly that she fully wants, and she hasn't really expressed that to Reed because she's scared of how he'll react if the truth came out. Yet she's not quite sure, because it's like, oh, like if you're unsure, then he's like, it might make him feel a certain way of like, oh, like does that mean what else are you unsure of? And you being unsure about this, does that mean you're unsure about a future? Like it could cascade like that, and that's what Becca is afraid of. But obviously, as they're drinking and doing their thing, Alma starts playing a song on the piano, and that song ends up being a song that they came up with as kids. Their dad came up with the tune or whatever, and it ended up being a song that they would always play and sing with each other anytime things got bad. And now, revisiting the past memories because of Becca's ability, they're starting to see, which is interesting, because I guess maybe their powers aren't necessarily the same. They're two different time travelers, where Alma is kind of rewriting history, and maybe Becca will eventually get there, but she's doing a lot of past to present. So it's like she's using her memories as a means of time travel, so it's not 100% the same as Alma. It's a little bit different. That's why I'm like, are they the same abilities, and it just Becca's going about it a different way? Her approach is different than Alma's, and that's all it is? Or is it just kind of like, no, her ability is time traveling memories, where Alma can time travel through like everything? Because she saw Sam when he was younger and stuff like that, but that would still involve time traveling memories. So I think it's at its core, it's all the same thing. It's just, I think, a slightly different approach to it. But they realize that their parents, this whole argument, like this issue about this Mexico thing, has been there since way back then. And it's just like, right, they were young at the time and didn't really remember that. So that's definitely interesting to know it's been such an issue. I didn't talk about it, but I should really quickly touch on it, that Alma ran into Sam. I thought was interesting, because I didn't touch on it last episode, but she saw like his profile or whatever, like his social media, and he has a different girlfriend in this universe. I mean, in this timeline. And so they meet, and she's like, oh, hey, Sam. And he's like, do I know you? It's like, yeah, it was a party you and your girlfriend were at, and we were all drunk, so you probably don't remember. And she's just kind of getting an update, just seeing like, oh, Sam, are you doing good and stuff? And she's also kind of being like, oh, yeah, I was right, too. He's like, what? About my dad, about everything. And it's like, oh, okay, something we talked about, I don't remember. Okay, well, I'm glad you were right. And it's actually kind of heartbreaking for her, because what was the last thing she said to Sam in the original timeline was, yeah, I'll save my dad, and I won't even have met you, and I won't even remember you. The sad thing is, you never met in this timeline, but you remember him. So that is a heartbreaking thing, because she was so conflicted, so kind of messed up, thinking about like, right, she cared about Sam, but he wanted more, to the point she broke up with him. I mean, to be fair, then he went off and still pretended like they were still together after when she lost her memory, and forgot the fact is that they broke up. But then they kind of moved past that. But then she got on him again when he worked with her mom to try and like ambush her. So, but regardless of everything, she still cares about him, and it's happy to know that he's happy. But it'd be easier if she didn't remember, but she does remember everything. So it complicates things. And now I think now that she's in a better position with her dad around, maybe she's not as messed up, and she's like, maybe things could work out. But you have a girlfriend in this, it's like, right, you're happy and I'm potentially happy. Which I love that Alma and Becca actually had a conversation about, like, right, I guess it explains like why our relationships are always kind of jacked up. We can blame our parents for that, like where that comes from. We only had their example to kind of be based around. So it's like, okay, interesting. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. And getting drunk, which we've learned firsthand in this series that the Diaz sisters don't do well when it comes to alcohol in their system and making good decisions. To be fair, that's not just allocated to them. That's allocated to, I'd say, 100% of society, 100% of people. But yeah, they go and confront their mom and it's like, yo, we know you had an affair. It's okay if you basically screwed them, because they're thinking, oh, Alejandro, which I think last episode I called him Antonio. Alejandro is blackmailing you. We need to know what's going on. Which she's like, oh, you guys don't know what I sacrificed for you. You're ungrateful. It's like, well, they're not wrong about you keeping some secret, but the fact is you're getting so defensive about it, which I think is interesting because it makes you wonder, did she have this, that means something changed because she didn't have, maybe, because whatever this is must have happened after Jacob died, but now that he's still alive, it was probably something like, right, he died and it kind of, this thing kind of went away. Maybe, once again, maybe she was having an affair, but it went away. But now it's a situation of he's alive in this timeline and she tried to, whatever it is. I'm leaning into it not being an affair, actually, but I'm still keeping room open in my head to think it was an affair. But I feel like that's just kind of the simple answer. I think it's going to be probably a little bit more complicated than that, whatever it is that she's dealing with. So their mom was kind of upset. Jacob ends up talking to Alma, and it's like, okay, Alma breaks the news. They're like, right, sis can also do it too. And Becca's like, wait, Dad knows about it? Wait, Dad, why was Dad training you? And it's like, wait, she can do it too. She has powers too. And Alma's like, right, me and Dad, we changed reality. And she's like, what? And in that moment, Jacob was like, don't say anything, Alma, because people knowing too much about that, once again, it's the whole existential thing of like, wait, you changed reality? What could I have been? What was life like before? That's going to be a whole conversation, because then she's going to be like, wait, I cheated on my fiance, then husband, and then I told him the truth, and then things kind of went sour. And even though the relationship is kind of going sour right now, but you know, because it's that, and I think that's going to be the lesson of the season. Once again, grass is always going to be greener, and you're always going to wish things were a little bit different. But once again, the more you change things, the more the timeline cracks, and you're never going to be able to make everything just right, because you never know what the ripple effects are. Because just because things are good for you, you don't know how that will ripple out and affect other people's lives. You know, because she still doesn't know what potentially changed between timeline A and timeline B. That would, hey, my dad's alive and everything's great there, but something's off with my mom. And once again, her sister now has abilities too, so was that always there, but she just never had access to him, or what? Just like, once again, circumstances led to Alma having hers, but still. So, but before Alma could spill the beans about, like, right, what they changed, which I think is a good thing, she didn't get to explain that, they hear their mom, like, driving away, and now Jacob's like, what have you done, Alma? So we'll see where things go from there, in episode 3. God, I stammered so hard to get there, sorry. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.